So last night it sort of came to my head, and I said, "This is the perfect song for what I'm going to talk about, and just the direction that I want to go." And here we go. So I'm going to stand up and sing it.
Okay.
I have to stand up here.
Okay.
So. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons' command. With glowing hearts we see the rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God's...
Don't worry about it.
Oh, no.
Want to do it again?
Save our land, glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Well done, Chris. Well done.
Please excuse my mistake.
No, it's all good, man.
It's just the nerves and everything else.
No, it's all good, man. I'm so glad that that you opened up the show like that.
Thank you.
And welcome back. No, throw it on, man. Like, throw it on. Let's get the caps back on. I feel like a cap today. So welcome back, Chris.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Thank you very much, Manny.
I know you haven't been in the studio. Last time we did it was in the other space there. How long ago was that? That was a while ago. No, a couple of years.
Yeah, maybe 2 years.
Yeah. So, well, welcome back, man.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I love your show, and
thanks, man.
It's what it's about, you know.
There's a handful of people that do.
Actually, since I mentioned about being on your show, there's quite a few people that have talked to me about talking to you about asking to be on the show. So
then just send them my way, and then we'll get them on the show, and we'll start having more conversations. So
right on.
I know that you hinted at what you wanted to chat about today. We're just gonna go with it. I mean, everyone that knows you from the other show knows that you do one of the how do I describe it? The least welcoming trade or skill. Mm-hmm. Is not a lot of people jumping for it. I mean, you're high-rise maintenance, exterior high-rise maintenance.
Yeah.
And it's a challenging occupation, mentally, physically. So, I mean, good for you on doing that. I know that, how long have you been doing that now?
I would just say 10 plus years.
Yeah. So, and then you're good at it. And also you're a Bosch guy.
I am a Bosch guy and a block lotta guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're a block lotta guy. Exactly.
And I noticed you have the mugs on the table.
And the
there.
shades there as well, too. So,
on.
we did a show with Block Lotta.
Oh, right on.
And so that's going to get posted soon. And then we're actually talking to them about other things as well. So
that's great.
We'll
it's
see
good.
What happens.
They have a fantastic product, and it's good to see that they're on the ball with everything. So
yeah.
And that you guys have partnered up, or at least
we're chatting. We'll see what happens,
so
right? But it's
good.
like I'm open to chat with anybody these days, so we'll figure out what's going to happen. But where do you want to begin this show?
I'm not really sure. Like I'm willing to talk about crypto, Twitter, Elon Musk. You pretty much name it. I spend a lot of my day doing research. I've been doing that for about 15 years, maybe longer. So I got into computers when I was 19. Well, way before that, actually. I had a Commodore 64.
Oh, okay.
To begin with, that my parents got. So, but when
floppy disk.
Yeah, floppy disk, press play on tape. It was pretty interesting to start there. But, it's very important for me to disseminate information and to try to get the best info I can.
Why did you take it upon yourself to do that?
I think it's just part of who I am.
Okay.
Sometimes I like to think maybe because I'm colorblind, I don't see things the same way. Like if I look at things, it's not about color. So a lot of people will say, look at that red thing over there. I never use color as a descriptor. I have to use other descriptors. So sometimes I think possibly
Textures? You're using textures and...
textures, definitely.
Okay.
The color could be bright or not bright, but I have to find other descriptors. And I think that sort of trained me in a way, at least I think, right? To sort of think outside of the box. Plus, I always prided myself in thinking outside the box. I'm someone that, I wanted to, when I was younger, go into RCMP college, or sorry, not RCMP, but officer college for the military. And I ended up just not doing it because I knew I couldn't take a direction or a command if I didn't know why. So, I'm sort of one of those people. I like to always fight against everything to know why it's happening, and then also to think about how we can make it better or change it from there as well. Like it's for me, the box, it's always open to change, and we know that. You know, if you look back 50 years to now, everything changes. Yeah. So anybody that says, "Oh, that's how it is," it's not going to change, they're lying to themselves. It's
the one expression that I can't stand, and if you're a tradesperson and you say this one expression around me, I will just walk away. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I can't stand that expression.
I can't stand it either.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever, because if you have a construction business or any business, or if that's your mindset, it is what it is. Your days are literally Monday through the week, and your years are literally just counting down until you die. And there's no purpose in that. And there's purpose behind every single person that's on this planet, right?
100%.
Good or bad or whatever, there's a purpose. So then I don't like hearing that expression, it is what it is. Don't ever, you could say it to me, but I will not continue a conversation with you if you say it is what it is.
It's funny you say that, because that's probably the one that I dislike myself as well.
I'm bringing up a point. Okay, so where do you want to be? I mean, so Twitter a good thing now with Elon running it?
I think it's definitely a good thing. We have Bill C-18 coming out. Well, it's already been out.
It's already been, okay. That was interesting what they did, what Meta did. Mm-hmm. So I understand what the political powers that be right now implementing that. It was about controlling the narrative. I get it. But then all of a sudden Meta comes along and they say, okay, fine. If you're going to police our news, then we're going to remove all news now. So now even the narrative can't even be seen.
Yes. Now, but you're right, because I've been thinking about it myself. It's more or less that I guess the government attacked sort of our free rights there and freedom of speech. You never really know how they're going to use it or how they're manipulating it, especially in the past 4 years. Some things can look a certain way and they're using it to manipulate you another way.
I wasn't so much concerned. I was concerned about that bill. I wasn't so much concerned about that bill as I was that it was rushed through without a proper vote and not discussed, because that's not a democratic country.
Exactly.
So why would you need to do that if you're trying to push a bill through?
Exactly.
So what is the agenda attached to that? So that's why I kind of smirked when I saw Meta do what they did in connection to what the Canadian government. And it's really sad that media sources now are saying that Canada is the only country in the entire world that has done this.
Yep.
Are we a testing ground?
Well, Canada has always been known for one of the freest countries in the world. Yeah. And now, I hear of immigrants that have been here, and now I'm an immigrant. I come from an immigrant family.
I'm an immigrant.
Yeah. We're all immigrants, unless I guess we're native. I hope I say that politically correct, right? But I hear people saying they want to go home now.
I'm hearing the same thing, Chris.
Yeah, and I hear like people my age, their parents want to go back to Lebanon, or their parents want to go.
Why is it? Sorry to interrupt you. Why is the media saying that we have such record high immigration coming into this country? Is that true or is that false?
I would say it's true. 100%.
So they're coming here, they're trying to get established, but they're not seeing the benefits from staying here.
That's even sort of separate, because I guess I'll get to this point. So this morning I was watching, it's a live streamer on YouTube, and he's called First Responder Media, and that's 1ST, not spelled FIRST.
Okay.
And he sits at the Texas border. And you watch it live. So when I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's still nighttime there. And
it's 3 o'clock in the morning there.
Yeah.
They're an hour back, yeah.
And he's filming. And so I get to see sort of what's going on the border. And so they have these illegal entry spots. And he basically stands there and he'll say, well, what country are you from? And, this morning you see Chinese, you see African, you see Iranian, you see Uzbek, and
They're all crossing at that.
they're all crossing when the government's saying that it's more, Colombia, South America, stuff like that. And then the other thing with it is that, they dump their IDs. So what happens is before they come across the border, so he'll go after and he'll find these piles of IDs and stuff. Less now because they're being more hip to it, so they're probably dumping it more in Mexico. But that's so. I guess there's different reasons for that. There's going to be the humanitarian reason because everyone deserves to try to come and have a better life, and I understand that. But so some of them may not be from countries that the U.S. wants to allow in. So they dump their ID to make it, easier, or they think easier. Other reasons are, they have criminal charges. Other reasons could be they're, possibly some could be military, right? Because
when did the government, weren't countries like Canada and the U.S. built on immigrants?
Yes.
So back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, that's when it was thriving. I guess after World War II, right? Bring your Hungary, everybody to come to this country to help build this infrastructure.
100%.
When did they stop doing that? And was it always a soundbite of saying we don't want the criminals coming into this country, we only want the hardworking people? But that doesn't seem like it's a distinguished element, right? It's not.
It's about, I guess, offering them, and that's exactly the point. There's so much to talk about. It's sort of hard to remember all the time, and when you start to talk, it comes out more. But that's what it's not about the illegal immigrants crossing the border are taken away from the immigrants that did it fairly, is how I look at it. Now, I understand, like I said before, humanitarian values, we have to look at it. The other thing is I don't feel that the amount of immigrants that we're allowing in now without doing it properly is actually going to help those immigrants or help the people that are in Canada already. We're basically destroying our system and not allowing us to organize it properly. There's a way where immigration has to be done soundly. You can't just let people be crossing over the border and doing everything else.
But what they're currently doing right now doesn't make any sense to me.
Doesn't make any sense.
When I hear about what's going on in Vancouver,
oh yeah,
I don't understand it. And I see the same in California.
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it as a public servant. I don't understand how you can think that that's correct, that that's right, and that's moving in the right direction. It's not. So then what are you doing about it? Absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. So why are we like that? The Vancouver, what's been going on? That's been going on ever since he got into power, isn't it?
I would say the fentanyl came over the border by the CCP, so the Chinese, many, many years ago. Now the cartel's part of it also in distributing it. If we're talking about like San Francisco, California, and it's more of a liberal type thing and drug addiction, homelessness, and everything else, yeah, it's pretty wild. I was homeless in my life. I've had times where when I was younger, I slept in a parking garage for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. I don't even remember, right?
Yeah.
But it's so tough to talk about that, and yeah.
No, I just I look at it more like, okay, in construction's built on cause and effect.
Yeah.
We design things, we build things, and what works we improve on, and we continue improving and building things. Like we only get better with it. So and every good tradesperson that's out there, they learn the skill. Everybody's not perfect. There's no phenoms in here like where you're a magical kid and all of a sudden you know how to swing a hammer perfectly.
Yeah.
Evan's pretty close, but I mean it's just like
great podcast.
Yeah, I know, which is super, right? I mean, he's 10 years old and he's starting at that point. But
Building
I mean,
boats.
it's still you learn, right? You totally learn, and so you adapt from that learning and you get better at it. Why isn't government doing that? Like, why are they just? It seems like it's a free ride. They get on a roller coaster. They're always too short. They're not supposed to be in there, but yet they're being compensated for doing bad ideas. And then they have their guest speaking engagements afterwards or their book deals, and the money keeps on coming after that. And it's not a reflection of the public. Like, we don't get that opportunity.
100%.
If you mess up on your job site, there's consequences.
I'm held accountable.
100% you're held accountable. So it's like, why can't the public, and I know we've had Nina on the show, and she was talking about how the government doesn't even give us an opportunity to complain about them, which is a scary thought, again, in a democratic country. And we were talking about Canada here.
And that's what we just talked about with the media and the censoring and everything else. You brought up Twitter, and Twitter is probably one of the last few places now where you can actually have freedom of speech and get news that I can't get anywhere else. So I haven't used. I'm a computer guy. I'm IT savvy. I didn't use Twitter my whole life. In the past year, past 4 months, Twitter has been amazing.
Will our government try to go after them next? Because I understand that they haven't gone after TikTok or Twitter, but TikTok is being fought against in the U.S. side, right?
So TikTok is hard. I've never installed TikTok. I wouldn't. I looked at it as sort of a military sort of type app, like the government said. I've heard other people say you shouldn't look at it like that. That's the government trying to control you, so on and so forth. But if you look at TikTok, it's pretty toxic. And, there's freedom of speech, but it's almost like the algorithm's going towards toxic.
There's a lot of noise on TikTok.
Yeah, and putting some really bad ideas in people's heads. So,
and they think it's legit, and then you just I think you gotta, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really say age-wise, because there's people our age that are still seeing things that I don't see, and I don't understand it, right? So there's lots of stories, and you send it out, and like recently I just dismissed the whole sub thing. I'm sorry, but I dismissed it, right? I'm not dismissing the lives that were lost. Mm-hmm. I was mentioning this to Angelina before we got started on recording here, is like the migrants that actually capsized.
Yeah.
No news media coverage whatsoever on that, but yet a shitload of coverage on the sub.
Yep.
So it's a balancing act to me. So when I get information and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I know about the capsize and 200 plus lives or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what the number is. That's pretty serious.
Yep. Versus
4 or 5 people in a sub that went down that shouldn't have gone down in a vessel that should not have been in the water.
With a PlayStation controller.
At 4,000 feet or something like that, which is like 10 Empire State. Like, it was just ridiculous how deep it is.
And the plexiglass was actually only rated for, I think it was 1,400 meters. So
I had a lot more sympathy for the capsized boat.
Yeah, 100%.
Than I did for those people. That's my opinion. It's just, that's how I looked at it. But I didn't, whenever I was looking at social media, I did not milk anything that had anything to do with sub.
Yep.
As soon as it was mentioned, and sure enough, you're right, TikTok was forcing it upon you. Because whenever you're going through the feed, because I do more research on the feed now than I do actually consuming the feed, is like, it was constantly being put in there. And I was like, I'm not asking for this stuff. It's like, you almost want to talk to your device and say, I'm not asking for this. Stop showing me this stuff. But that's what they do really well. That's the scary part. And I'm still stunned by, I had Josh here from On Hive years ago in the early days of this podcast. And I asked him, and he was home automation. And I asked him, okay, so what's the future going to look like? What's the value? What's the currency going to happen in the future? And he just said one word: data.
Data, yep.
And it scared the shit out of me at the time. But he's 100% right. Like, anybody who controls the data, controls the narrative, controls what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that's a scary thought. So it's noise. You got to go through all this noise. And so you do a lot of research. You're on there and you do a lot of research to find out what's going on, but you have to filter through what is BS.
Yeah. I have to be like, I had a lot to think about before coming on the show, because I had to think about, if I'm bringing up these issues that a lot of people don't bring up and what I'm talking about. And I really spend a lot of time to try to form, like, the way I like to be is I say a lot of crazy things. So
no, you don't.
so a lot of people have a hard time just taking it at face value, I guess, because I'm not driving, a fancy sports car. I'm rich. So, that trust is a little less, which is crazy. So I use time. So I will tell you certain things, and I just expect that after a year or two that you recognize that the things I've said, have come true, and to give me a little more credibility. I would say most people don't do that.
Well,
There's a few that'll say, Chris, thank you very much for saying that. I have to be humble myself in that way, right? That's not really what it's about, but it hurts me a lot of times that I do put all the effort in, and then I just can't, broadcast it out, and people, I have to use sort of my own. There's no tricks, but you have to seed people's brains yourself, and I have to be honest in the way I say it, and I have to do it. Like there's a lot of people when I go to work, 'cause I work in construction, and a lot of the trades, like they're probably my closest ally for me getting out this information.
I was going to ask you, how is the construction industry? Like the construction person, how are they with all this stuff?
They generally agree. A lot of them, though, aren't as knowledgeable about it because most people they have a family or something. I wish I had a family. They don't have the time to wake up in the morning, spend 2 hours sifting through it, and then 3 or 4 hours when they come home.
But they kind of should, because it's going to affect their family.
Exactly. But what I see is a lot of people, it hurts them too much. They don't want to believe it's that bad, so they make themselves believe to a certain level. And I've actually had that where I go to work and I say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be very positive today. I have two news things I got to tell you, and then it's done. Because some people they can't handle it.
They don't want to hear it.
They can't handle it.
I can't tell you the last time I saw any kind of mainstream news media. I don't watch it. I refuse to watch any of it.
None.
I can't.
Yep.
And it wasn't just recently. This has been going on for years and years and years, that I just don't like the narrative.
Yep.
I just, there was that act, or was it the U.S. or Canada? There was an act back in the 60s that was eliminated. I think it was the U.S. side. Nixon got rid of it, where every news media source had to present both sides of a story. I don't remember the name of it, but they had to present both sides of the story and let the public decide on what is going on.
That sounds perfect.
But that's not going on.
No, it's not. Talking about anything right now. So Bill C-18, which we were talking about, and you talked about Facebook. So I tried to look at that and try to have ideas to speak about today. So you said that, so Facebook is not going to post any more of those things, right?
News-wise.
But that might be good for the Canadian government, because maybe that also stops people from copying a Globe and Mail article, writing what they think about it, and then reposting it. Because I guess at some point they're going to use that, and it's going to be blocked as well. So it might actually be taking any criticism away from mainstream media, unless you're just watching the mainstream. So I think we always need to look a little closer than just what it appears like. In the past 4 years, Trudeau is really, I call him now, I just say our mighty leader. It's like, it's like we're talking about CCP, and I should be hanging Trudeau on the back wall, right? And it's...
You're not the only one that's not thinking that.
So the biggest thing that I see going on is the division, the governments, and this comes down...
They clearly did that.
Yeah, and this comes down to WEF. That's not a conspiracy theory anymore, right?
Yeah.
The World Economic Forum, climate change, this whole thing. Of course, I see species dying. I see plants dying. I see our oceans being polluted. I agree with all. Like I was raised. Most of my life, I was a liberal. So I've always agreed, and everyone's equal. I've agreed in, environmental stuff and everything else. Now I've been basically casted as a far right or conservative, even though I still consider myself a liberal. I consider myself a true liberal, almost, in a sense. I shouldn't say that. That's sort of wrong. Everyone has their own ways, I guess, of doing it. But the whole thing's about division right now. And what scares me the most is that, even... if we're doing hiring based on, helping people, or like just say with LGBT now, you have Gays Against Groomers and other gay people that are standing up to the narrative of that. You're starting to see more division. Yeah. And I just would like to warn people to be careful, because it's almost like the government's setting up certain groups to sort of take that fall. Because the way that I saw the gay scene and with marriage and, when I was younger, I spent a lot of time in the gay scene. I'm straight, but I spent a lot of time. I was, I was in the party scene. I knew a lot of people in that scene. I liked it. I'd watch drag shows, I'd be at a gay bar, not a problem. But I see now that the government has sort of pushed this whole trans thing and, and trans is fine too, right? But it's sort of pushed it on them. It's just, I see the government setting up certain people for failure in that sense and division. And it would be the same as like if you're diversity hiring, like say the press secretary for Biden.
Okay.
Right? If she really screws it up now, but she's following the narrative that the government's telling her to do, which is we both know, it sounds wrong. It doesn't make sense when they speak it. They're lying. Now, so many have done this, but she's the first black woman, right, to do that or whatever. And you're putting her in a spot now where she's going to fail. You know what I mean? And to me, I think that's more what we should be looking at than division between all of us is how is the government trying to divide us? And how do we come back together to actually start dealing with these issues? Because it was easy for the government just to say, "Oh, you guys think you guys think you haven't had this for so long? We'll give it to you. We'll do this." And then they drive this train of control, and they're not actually allowing, I don't think, those groups to really do it. They've sort of shaped it and done it themselves.
It was kind of evident with the truckers convoy.
Yes,
about the BS with there was no Nazi flag, there was no guns. There was none of it. It's all coming out, right?
Yep.
So was there Beijing interference with the last election?
I think so.
So I think a lot of Canadians are starting to see that. My question is, why has a vote of no confidence not been presented yet in Parliament?
Now, I'm not too familiar with that, but I guess NDP and Bloc would have to agree with that.
Exactly. And then I guess the coalition is preventing from getting that vote to move forward on a vote of no confidence, right? Which is how the old school British, which is what Canada is, because we're still part of the Commonwealth, right? So they can't even get the vote to call out that we found evidence against our mighty leader that he should be getting taken out.
Yep.
Right. So it's just, and so he's just going to ride his term, I guess, until the next election, which is next year, right?
Yep.
But there's still more damage being done. And there's bills 18 is not the only one. There's other bills that they're trying to get as well through. And so it's just, you're going to make this mess for the next government to try to figure out.
It's really weird because like I try to think objectively, and like I said, I'm not really a conservative, and I'm not really a liberal anymore either, right? I guess I'm just a human, right? Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say there for a second.
About the confidence or the separation, division.
Sorry.
It'll come back.
Brain fart.
It'll come back. But I mean, it's just like, okay, it was never like this, Chris.
No.
And I know that it's been like, it's almost been a slow train creeping, and now it's not a train anymore. It's a roller coaster, and we're right on the crest. And now it's just going barrel right down.
Well, yeah. And so these are the things that I see. Like I noticed through Twitter a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago, and I haven't seen it again, but massive troop movements in the U.S. And now
in the U.S.?
In the U.S., going generally from provinces to other states to other states that they generally don't go to. A lot of the videos that I saw look like they'd be used for crowd control, more like martial law or something like that.
Wasn't that the threat? I remember Carlito and I, he was having a conversation with me because you got to sit down and talk to Carlito too. He was giving me some insight about during the convoy that military presence was already being mobilized.
Now the reason why possibly it could be mobilized, like I have to take everything with a grain of salt. I didn't have enough info to really say, for sure. But I think our banking system's going to collapse.
I agree with you.
There's BRICS, and now, they talked about France joining BRICS, but it's about a lot of different African countries joining BRICS, and the fiat dollar is on its last legs.
Yeah.
And the more that we're printing the money, the more that we're continuing this war in Ukraine, and laundering billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Well, the Pentagon not the Pentagon, but the U.S. just recently said that they had a miscalculation of 6.2 billion. They
Yeah.
accidentally just sent it to Ukraine. They didn't realize that they did it.
And imagine if they're saying that, how much have they actually?
6.2 billion.
Well, if they're saying that, imagine how much they actually laundered away.
Is it true during the sub fiasco that Putin and China, Russia and China signed some sort of agreement?
During the submarine thing? That I didn't see anything that could have happened. I didn't see anything.
There's a lot of talk about those countries kind of taking over the U.S. dollar. Like,
sorry. I thought you said like the submarine when it was going
no,
down.
while that was going on,
100%.
the media was not covering what was going on between China and Russia.
100%. They're shaking hands and looking very friendly.
You got to question that.
And it was the same with, I can't remember which country in Africa it was, but just recently they actually said we're no longer going to be using U.S. dollars.
I've seen that, yeah.
To for any of your wheat or any of your buying or any of your business to other countries in Africa, we're actually going to use whatever dollar sort of whatever currency they have, and that'll be switched over. So it is starting. Like I don't have a mortgage, but I warn people at the start of COVID, watch out for variable mortgage.
And now look what's going on.
And now it's insane.
People are paying twice what they were paying when they first got their mortgage.
Yep.
And they're only halfway through the mortgage.
Yeah.
So that's why I do believe that the bank it's a shame, because it's exactly what happened to the U.S. With their housing collapse. And Harper at the time avoided that because he had stricter guidelines regarding the application process of mortgages.
Okay.
So it didn't happen here in Canada, but now it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're on track for this to happen. So they're predicting in the next 2 to 3 years that there's going to be a massive historical amount of mortgages failed. And people are going to walk away from their properties, and then banks are going to consume them, and then they're going to have to foreclose and then sell them really quickly. But then the market's not going to want to buy any of these properties.
And then I guess the big corporations will buy them up, like we've been saying, and then it's basically the WEF plan of you will own nothing, right? You will rent.
Yeah, that old crap.
It always sounds cliche when I bring up the WEF, but it's just, I guess that's how they've made it sound, right? Is that I can bring up the WEF and sort of what their goal is, and people sort of look at it and go, oh yeah, I've heard that before, but they don't actually really think about it, So
how do we fix it, Chris? Like, I know that you get a lot of politicians like Pierre talking, and you get RFK talking, you get a lot of people talking, in my opinion, common sense wise, like this is what goes back to humanity.
RFK 100%.
Yeah, it goes back to that makes sense. Like, we want equality. We want people to survive. We don't want people to be a burden on the system. We don't want to keep growing the system to feed the burden. We want people to thrive and grow and then contribute and go back to those immigrants from the 50s, 60s and everything.
Exactly.
And build the nation. And RFK was totally right about saying reduce the amount of military and increase the amount of internal. And become internally strong. And every country, I said that at the beginning of the pandemic. I just said this is a great opportunity to focus on building Canada and having our infrastructure stronger and bringing more businesses back into Canada. We've got so much land. We have the most amount of land that we can build on. We're such a huge nation, but yet we are small compared to what's really going on. The possibilities for this country are huge. But then when you have a leader that we have right now, they're gatekeeping it. That's the problem. Yep. So it's like I like hearing what Pierre, RFK, and anybody else that kind of makes sense, even Elon, whatever at times makes sense to me. How do you fix this though? Is there so much damage that you can't fix it? Is it a dam that's completely broken open and you're trying to fix it with toilet paper? Like, I don't understand how you fix this.
It's a good question, because this is what I was going to say earlier when I forgot was
I have a knack of bringing that up, but I probably just took it away from you again now.
No, it's good. It's good. Is a lot of times I sit back and I think, well, what if it wasn't Trudeau? It was Pierre Poilievre that got that position. Would we still be in the same corruption and the same position, considering if you're looking at it and thinking that it's a global endeavor that's controlling it? That's a good question. Yeah. Right? Would we actually be in any different circumstances, right? I think the biggest way to change it is people just need to get together. People need to stop the division, start realizing, I don't want to talk about a lot of this trans stuff and with kids and a lot of the curriculum and stuff like that. But it looks like we can't talk about stuff anymore. One side wants to shut it down. Like there's not that discussion that you were talking about earlier.
Well, Russell Peters said it best in that interview that he did a few months back, where it's like, just because it's your problem, it doesn't mean that it has to be the world's problem.
Yep.
Like what happened to the days of I remember being in high school, you got a problem with somebody, you just confront them and you talk to them about it and you resolve it that way. That person never made it your problem.
Yeah.
And now you have to take it home with you, and now you have to contribute it to the problem and keep on growing that problem.
And once again, I just think it's the government manipulating different groups to create that division, trying to offer them something that they do deserve, which is freedom and inclusivity, and
we all want that,
but they're manipulating it, is how I feel, and then with that you have all the virtue signalers, and to me that's the hardest one, or the people that walk down the street and they think just because they're replying something or they're doing what the narrative is, they think in their mind that they're good people. I've never seen Toronto so cold in my life. I've lived here.
You're so right.
I've lived here my whole life. It is cold.
I don't even like walking around Toronto.
It's cold.
In fear, to be very honest, and trust me that I love Toronto. Like I loved Toronto.
Me too.
I would go for a ride, stop, sit down, espresso, whatever. And
smile at some people.
Yes, say hello.
Yeah.
After the last 3 years, you're cautious of even expressing any emotion on your face to another person.
And if you do, what I've noticed, because I'm the type of person, ever since I've been a kid, I had anxiety. So when I was probably 13, I had to already start learning how to count down in my head to get rid of some anxiety. But the way that I am is I smile at people. I hold doors open. For me to smile at 40 random people during the day is just normal. And I stopped doing that for a while, like in my neighborhood and stuff, because it almost was like it was worse. Like I would smile and people would, have this reaction. And, and that's like little Portugal that I live in, right? And, that's Portuguese now, and it's a lot of the younger people, and it's changed a bit. But that would be a community that, a hardworking guy like me, if I smiled or something, or I had a conversation, people would like me. People would say, oh, he works hard, he's that. But I don't see that now. I don't want to say this, but even just being the slur, which they call cis now, it's like being a white male now, and especially like if I have construction clothes on or something, and now I shave my head, right?
Is that worse?
I feel it is. People could say that's in my own head, but I just I've always been a person that can feel the people around me.
The vibe.
Yeah, the vibe. And it got cold, and now I just realize it's even more cold. But I try to stamp that out. So even in the past week, I just started smiling again, and even though I still do that, I started pushing it out even more. But honestly, feeling it, because I can't force that out if it's not real. I have to do it.
But you would never have thought about it then.
No,
it's just
never.
An instinct of yours. You just do it. Yeah. You don't even realize you're doing it. If someone actually shot video of you walking around, you probably realize, I didn't even know I did that. I didn't know I did that. I didn't know that. I'm smiling at everybody. I'm saying hello to people. You don't even know that you're doing it, but you're just doing it because you're a good human being and you just want to be in a good human environment.
And spread that and get that feeling back. Yeah.
And I totally agree with you that Toronto is not like that anymore.
Yeah. And even the smiling, now that we're talking about it, that was a good way when I was younger also for safety, because if you're walking by, say, some tough guys or something, the smile, like a genuine smile, has always worked. They're not going to smile back, but it sort of, it disarms them in a way. I don't even know what it does, but it's always seemed to be a very smart choice, I guess, in keeping yourself safe in a sense, like a karma type thing. I'm not really sure.
It's interesting you bring that up, but it's I think in my first years of construction, when I had opportunity to go into certain neighborhoods, that coldness that you bring up, it was in those neighborhoods. Like when you be walking on a sidewalk and very well-to-do people they don't necessarily smile all the time to you.
No.
They don't acknowledge you. And I'd get upset. I would really get upset. Like, I mean, I almost to the point where one day I really want to walk into a high-end establishment wearing workwear. And the dirtier the workwear, the better for me. And to see how people would treat me. Right? But I want to know in the back of my head, I can afford this item, whatever that's going to be. But that coldness that you talked about, I remember walking through certain neighborhoods in this city. That was cold then. And now you're right. In all communities now, when you go Queen West, you go Leslieville, you go Little Italy, you go every little area, that coldness is there. Like, so all that wealthy people neighborhoods, it's kind of spread across all the neighborhoods.
Yeah, everybody's on their guard. Everybody, they don't want to smile. And it's almost like... it's almost like people say, well, why aren't you friendly in the city? And it's like, because I used to joke around sometimes, like way back before this happened, right? And I'd say, well, maybe it's just because if you smile at everyone, you might be bringing problems to you, right? Because there's a lot of crazy people and everything. And if you're looking out for it, I don't know. I was trying to think of why, people... that sort of went off track, but...
No, I think you're getting to the point where I think you're trying to realize that people are already trying to categorize you, everything about you, politically, personally, mentally.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm like, you can't do that from seeing somebody just walking towards you. You can't start assuming everything that this person's this and this is what they believe in, this is what they vaxxed or whatever, mask, all that shit. Like, it just is like, you can't do that. How about just like, I'm trying to, and I still do it. I'm still fine. I'll meet somebody. There was a guy that came up to me the other day. He was getting frustrated because he couldn't connect with the cab, and he was trying to get he didn't know the area. He didn't know the neighborhood. And he was like, where am I? And I explained to him. I was like standing there, and I was like, okay, this is where you are. Okay, where can I get the cab now? And I'm like, okay, well, here's a landmark. You can tell him. And he goes, okay, thank you so much. We talked for like a few minutes. And I'm like, that hasn't happened in a while, man. People won't go up to other people to just have a conversation about assistance.
Yep, 100%.
And that sucks, man.
Yep.
Because that was a Canadian right.
It was. That was the freedom that we have, and the freedom for people who live here and new immigrants coming over. But now they're not seeing that either, right? They're, like, I did want to talk a little bit about the illegal immigrants and stuff, just on the fact of, because I was talking about the border in the U.S., so a lot of them are coming up to Toronto, right? They are coming up to Canada. I've seen in my neighborhood, it's changed huge in the past 2 years, just with the amount of, let's say, illegal tradesmen that have come into the fold. So it's not fair for them because, like, I first saw this with certain European countries in restoration, doing balcony restorations. So they were able to bring immigrants over illegally and stuff. And what they do is, they don't pay them as much, right? They might have to live together or do that. But of course they're going to do that because they want freedom. Yeah. Right? So they're being manipulated by their bosses, right? They don't really have the opportunity to say, well, screw that. You're not treating me fair. I'm going to go somewhere else. So they get stuck with it. Yeah. Then they also beat down the prices, right? And then the other immigrants and other Canadians can't fulfill those jobs anymore because you have other people that are undercutting you. Yeah. And you're always going to have that. If someone wants to get away from making $5 a day and war and death or whatever else is going on, they'll be more than happy to give up those rights, and they deserve those rights just like we do, right? Yeah. So that's how I sort of like to look at it, right? Is that there's a system there that we just need to do better to make sure that everyone's being protected properly.
So who's at fault there? The employer who's taking advantage of the situation? Because I've only heard about it. I haven't seen it. And there's also the scary thought about how they're keeping their passports, too. So then they're stuck at that point.
Yeah, I've heard that with the nannies in the past. Yeah. Yeah, they would keep with the nannies. I guess in the past, I would have blamed more the employer. Okay. Now I would blame the government because they're fully aware of what's going on. I think it's a part of destabilizing the cities again. And destabilizing stuff.
Just a division.
The more that we get into chaos, the more they're gonna be able to come to our rescue, right? So the more, like online hate speech. Next thing it is that you log on with your digital ID, right? So therefore, if you're saying something, you can be held accountable, right?
Yeah.
But that's a slippery slope. And I started talking about the slippery slope at the start of COVID, and I had a lot of very extreme liberal friends, and they said, "Oh, slippery slope. What do you mean slippery slope?" And it's pretty plain to see, right? The slippery slope happens when a freedom or something gets taken away that's normally there, and that's how I've seen everything go now.
Well, I mean, look at the calendar. Just look at the events. Look at starting from, I guess, the pandemic to the convoy, lies being shared to the gun registry being changed. So
even
taking legal rifles away from hunters. Legally. That are doing everything properly. Why?
Just one thing. So I suggest everyone that still wants to be armed to go and buy a recurve bow.
Okay.
I have one, so they're still legal. So at least you have
for now.
At least you have some sort of.
So I mean, C-18 and whatever bills are going on. So it's all these little things that he's doing, that government's doing, to I guess weaken us, divide us, and then you get people questioning each other, right?
Yep.
I want to ask you about this mayor race. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, Toronto's got a mayor race going on right now because Tory had an affair, whatever, during COVID years and whatever. And it's not that he was doing a good job to begin with or what have you. But it's just Toronto is the biggest city in Canada. It has the most amount of debt. In my opinion, it has the most amount of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
I guess right now Olivia Chow is the front runner or whatever.
That's what the polls say, but
we don't know. The polls are. Yeah. I know.
I've seen where Mainstream does a poll of 1,000 people, and maybe it's it's through their email marketing or something of people that have subscribed, right? So it's easy to come up with numbers, and then when you speak that, then people start believing that,
of course.
And then they want to vote for that. I've sort of followed a little bit about but not too much. I've watched, seen Chris Sky. I've seen a couple of the other people. I haven't watched any of the debates. I should be watching that more, but I'm really getting to the point now. I don't think it really matters. And
doesn't matter who's going to get in there.
I know that, and also I don't even trust the system of the counting of the votes anymore. And I know that came from the U.S. and there was that whole Trump thing. So now I look like that guy, right? But there's been like.
But is it the Trump thing, or are we going as far back as the Bush-Gore thing?
Well, and
the second election.
And there was something recently about that the voting machines we use are actually owned by a Chinese company. So.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious. And if I'm wrong.
So we can't even as Canadian people make our own voting machines and like.
I don't know enough about it to talk more about it, but it does look very sketchy.
I'm not surprised.
I really don't think it matters anymore who we vote for. I think even in the States, I think it's going to be even worse than the last election. I think it's going to be rigged even more. Not saying it was last time, but I just see that the governments can get away with it now. They can pretty much do what they want, and the people are going to complain, but we're so close to civil war anyways, the banking collapse and everything else. And Russia, we just saw the Wagner group the other day. They said they were going to attack Moscow, right? So that's the mercenary group that Russia used that won most of their battles in Ukraine. So they're I think there were 75,000 mercenaries. I think they have 25,000 left, but they consist of Navy SEALs, some of the best trained, and probably some regular people too. But all of a sudden the other day, he made a threat against Putin. Said he was going to
Biden.
No. This mercenary group, the Wagner group.
Okay.
And they're the main force in Ukraine. So without them, they pretty much have gotten a lot of the gains in Ukraine. So he actually said we're going to move on to Moscow, And they started moving from Ukraine and actually took over, I think it was Rostov, or I don't want to say the names wrong, but they actually started moving right up to, they were 200, I think, kilometers or 200 miles away from Moscow. They were taking over cities. And I think that was more CIA involved and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden they're returning back to their bases on Ukraine. So first Putin said that he wanted to have him arrested, that it was treason, mutiny, and then all of a sudden it went away. But as a mercenary group, I just wanted to bring it up because it's sort of current.
Yeah.
But as a mercenary group, they're pretty much, I don't know, there's so much going on in this that it could be Russia, it could be CIA, it could be anything at this point.
Is RFK correct when he says that he could end it tomorrow?
I think so.
Because he said that there was an agreement already on the table.
I think 100%.
Right.
I don't think Russia wants bloodshed.
No.
You know, I had a friend in construction. He was an older guy, and he would talk about Russia all the time. And so we started joking, and I'd say, Russia, everything, Russia, right? And then when with the war with Ukraine happened, I went and talked to him because I knew he was one of the few people that wouldn't be anti-Russia, and I'd be able to talk about some of the points that I was hearing to get some information. Yeah. And I said, you know, isn't it great? And he goes, yeah, it's so sad. He goes, because I have family in Ukraine, I have family in Russia. So it's a bit of both, right? You know, I definitely think that the war there would end. I think that it's a huge money laundering pit.
Isn't it true that Ukraine is a corrupt, one of the most corrupt governments in Europe there?
And they still, yeah. I'll try not to say too much, but yeah.
No, I mean, because that's what I mean. Now we're starting to hear about all the money that's coming. And Trudeau's government has given all this money while you see such homelessness numbers here in Canada.
Or veterans.
The veterans story is a whole other thing. Like, it's insane that they don't even get anything, nothing at all. But yet billions are being sent there. But then you're now finding out that those billions are not going to help Ukrainian people.
Have you watched Zelensky? I don't want to call someone out.
He's an actor.
Well, it also looks like he's high on cocaine on a lot of his interviews. Now, I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah. But
I'm a recovering addict myself, and
so you could see certain signs.
There's definitely some signs. Whether I'm correct or not, I can't say. But that it's a little strange. Yeah. And that's just a drug addiction. So that doesn't, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean everything else. But FTX, the crypto, was a part of that too. That fell. So that big FTX scandal. I don't know how much money people lost in that.
It's amazing how that's kind of
it disappeared now.
Yeah,
because
Bankman. Is he still in prison, or is he in house arrest, or what's going on with him?
And now they dropped 5 of the charges or something. And so
we're talking about billions of dollars over here, but you don't hear any of the celebrities squawking at anything. Like, I mean, there was a lot of talk about Brady and all kinds of other celebrities lost their portfolio was driven around that FTX, right? But FTX was a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago. Yeah.
But it's disappeared completely. It's almost like David Blaine or David Copperfield is running the countries here, man.
Yeah. It's like a Houdini.
Yeah. For the older crowd.
Yeah. Sorry.
But no, that's what I mean. If they already know David Blaine.
I forget I'm old sometimes.
No, I know. They would know David Blaine. But it's just, I find it really fascinating. That's why I don't listen to or pay attention to any of the mainstream media, because last week was sub, next week's going to be something else.
Yep. Well, and then, there's that whole Hunter Biden.
Oh, the laptop.
And now there's actually Mel Gibson and a couple other people are coming out big time trying to expose.
I get nervous. I get a little nervous about it because I can't remember who said it, but you're going to see media bombarding Mel again about his rant that he did. I think it's a decade. And sure, I mean, it was wrong.
Do you know what he's currently doing now?
He's doing a documentary on the whole child trafficking. Okay. And that's why, he's got a 5-part or a 4-part child, and he's pointing some serious fingers.
Yeah. And they're trying to, include the CIA because that would make sense with the
that's what Jim Caviezel is saying right now.
the Epstein
right?
Island.
And,
right?
I find it disappointing that there isn't a single distribution company in Canada that was going to carry that film.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really pissed off about
I wasn't
that.
aware of that, but
So not a single distribution. So, but fortunately, Carlton is carrying the film.
okay.
So you can see it at the Carlton. And anybody who knows Toronto area, Carlton is more of a obscure theater, and you'll get one or two. But it's just like in a nation this big, why isn't it more theaters carrying that film? And us as the public, we decide to go watch. I mean, there's a lot of things. First of all, there isn't much to watch these days in the theater.
No.
There isn't much to watch on any of the streaming shit. All the streaming services are all shit, in my opinion. But I mean, like that's a film that I think should be out there, should be distributed, and people should watch it and then get an idea of it.
And if you disagree with it or whatever, then you have that opinion to say, hey, he's loony, he's nut bar, but at least you should have the opportunity to speak what he what he feels he wants.
But again, go back to like news media presenting both sides of the story, and you as a viewer, you decide what you want to believe.
Well, yeah, the integrity of journalism is long gone. And they're jokers. But see, I still look at it the same ways because you get upset, right? You see this, you want things to be right. You want Canada, and you want everyone around you to have I want people to have what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Right. And I look back now. I used to sometimes look back at my childhood and I'd have an issue with this or that. Now I look back and I think, oh, I'm so lucky. Like what I lived through, but I never thought that would leave. I thought that would be able to provide it to, our next generation and our grandchildren. And it's pretty much gone. Like parks, actually just going and feeling safe on the street and going out and, and coming back. It's not like that. Like I actually carry dog spray when I go on to the subway now. And it's only for dogs. But, one of and I would never do that. I'm a big guy, right? Why do I need to have anything like that? But with all the random attacks that are going on subways now and stuff, it's just not safe. It's just not, and it's not like,
and they're never reported.
And
I can't stand that.
Well, sometimes they're reported as long as it meets the criteria of what mainstream media wants to show, right? So because on Twitter I see. It's unfortunate, but I see a lot of violence in the States, some in Canada, and none of it's reported. And that's for certain reasons, right? So, but now, do I want it reported? Do I want to create more of that division? It's not really what I'm trying to get at, but it's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Well, it was kind of upsetting when I first learned that our subway system, the way it was designed, that whenever there's a delay, most of the time, someone has taken their life and jumped. And it's never shared. Nope. It just says that there's a technical issue, there's a delay, and it depends on the severity of it. Buses would be accommodated, or you'll wait for the train to come along. But it's like you said, people just don't want to hear it.
But that would be better if they probably did, because then they could realize how the society around them is falling apart, and it probably stop blaming the TTC for not being on time, right? They wouldn't say, they would understand why it's not on time. But
let's get into a little bit of crypto, because I know that you're in it as well, and you've educated me, and we've talked a number of times on it.
I'm really sorry about XRP. Just hodl.
You don't apologize for anything, man. It's just like I have no issues with it whatsoever. Honestly, I do not have any issues with it. What is going on in your eyes? I mean, if the world is going digital currency wise, is it a matter of like time before one is left standing?
100%. So like XRP, definitely the way it's connected with all the banks and for payments and stuff. And it's only, since we've talked, it's only gained a lot more of a foothold in that. The main thing that's holding it back is the government.
Surprise.
Yeah, I didn't want to believe that before, like I saw with the SEC case and everything. So I just wanted to speak about it and try to be factual about, what was sort of going on, and then say the government is trying to hold back crypto in a sense, but 100% now. That's it. So I can't really give anybody any good insight on what's going to happen with crypto because it's in the full hands of our government right now. So
what's Bitcoin doing? Like, what are they?
People say Bitcoin could be the last one standing because all the rich people are all the people with money have Bitcoin. They say it's more retail investors with XRP. So like I'm just floating around what I've seen in the past day or two. So that was a Bitcoin person saying that Bitcoin will stay and they'll destroy XRP. I have a lot of other people like XRP otherwise is supposed to do, it's what's 50 cents US right now, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
But its all-time high is $3. The return to an all-time high would be guaranteed with the SEC case, but then it's the manipulation again from the government. It could go up to $15, $30, no problem. Like if XRP is used as part of the stable banking coin, which it already has integration for, it could be worth a lot of money. But at this point, I can't really give anything because everything's really at the hands of the puppet masters. Yeah. When before I felt there was a little bit more opportunity there, and that because crypto was a new thing, and you could see it being adopted in other countries like Japan, Korea, and stuff like that, where it was embraced a little more. So I had a little more trust that it might break through on its own and that the US and Canada would embrace it a little. But at this point, I'll just say it again. It's up to them. They can destroy or break anything they want to at the moment, just like they're destroying our countries. They're destroying, our way of life, right?
But it's funny how the FTX, how you talked about it earlier, it just disappeared, but yet I can understand the wealthy people that invested in it. They didn't invest everything. They didn't lose everything. But other people that were just Joe Schmo probably put a big chunk in there. And that was like a big chunk of their life savings. And that's completely disappeared on Bankman's wasteful or, I guess, uneducated experience, right?
I think you're being kind to him.
And his team or whatever it was. But I mean, like, that's, it's just like you get into certain people, like that were revealing secrets to let the public know about things, and they're rotting in jails, and other people are house arrest and got away with it, right?
I think that's why he's getting off just speculation is to keep him quiet, right? Because he knows where all the money went. They've already said that a lot of the money was put through Ukraine or something into FTX and then put to Democrat.
I saw that
as donations. So
how do you account for that as a politician? How do you not say, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm busted"?
I don't think there's really any accountability anymore. I think since COVID, like even now, if you've looked at Died Suddenly is a group that's sort of just reminds you every day who's dying that's vaccinated. And they're 2-3 shots plus. And these are basketball players.
Yeah, we've seen it. Athletes, healthy people. We've seen it all. And now the narrative is being changed, right? Like it's just, okay, we fucked up.
Well, but I don't even see people really, like I don't see people wearing the masks anymore. I don't see people saying, go get your vaccine. But no one's admitted that they're wrong. No one's, I'm still an unvaccinated person that people would look down upon, right?
Is there no accountability for Fauci? Or does he get a free ride?
I think it's just like everyone else. They're all getting a free ride. So just like Trudeau, just like everything that we would expect of our government and people in a higher position to take care of us and protect us. It's completely the opposite now. It makes me sick, actually. I used to believe there was a lot more love and that not everyone was so evil and corrupt. But I guess once the whole group starts doing it, right?
That's the messaging that I'm looking at right now, where it's like things like FTX is teaching people not to invest into crypto. That was a hard lesson
to the new retail investor, 100%.
Yeah. So, but then it keeps the elitist only controlling that. So then they'll control it in bed with their friends that are in government.
Yep.
And what's that teaching? Because right now there's a kid, somebody, boy or girl, is being born that's going to be a prime minister of this country one day. And what's that teaching that child? Like basically become prime minister because you can get away with whatever you dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's scary.
It's really scary. Yeah, it's and I guess that's why, most people don't want to hear it. Right? They want to live in a bubble, and not even they want to live in a bubble. It's just, what do you do to like a person at work that I talk to that somewhat understands? They have 2 kids at home. After work they go home and take care of the kids. And do everything else. Like they just can't. They can't cope with that. They don't have the time to even cope with it. So it's better just to not believe it's that bad. It's sort of like the Mel Gibson thing we talked about earlier. Most people, that would just be crazy talk to.
Yeah.
And for me, okay, well, maybe it's not happening, but if it is happening, I really want to see this documentary. I really want to see.
I watch it.
What needs to be spoken.
I want to see it. I've seen some feature films back in the day about child trafficking, and they're very disturbing.
There's actually, I think, a person, you and I won't say who it is, that we're both connected to online, that has actually been involved with helping stop that.
Really?
I think we're both friends. I'll mention it after.
Mention it to me off mic, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
No, of course not, of course not. But it's just funny how, like, where is Jamie Foxx, man?
Jamie Foxx?
Yeah, Jamie Foxx has just disappeared. He went into the hospital.
Yes.
And he just disappeared. Mm-hmm. Then there was like, I mean, because this show's talking about certain things and stuff, like Kobe Bryant, man. There was a case that was supposed to move forward that he was attached to.
Oh, it was this. What case was this?
There was a child.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even hear about it.
So that's where I read something about that. There was something that was being, and he was going to be pointing fingers or something like that.
He was going to be, exposing other people.
Because he was at the time a huge person.
Yeah.
Massive person.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, and I'm hearing the same thing about Jamie Foxx. And it's like, Jamie Foxx is my age. He's just a few years older than me. Mm-hmm. And he's a healthy individual. He was gearing up to do the Mike Tyson story. Mm-hmm. And he was looking forward to doing it, mm-hmm. right? And all of a sudden, he's just disappeared this year.
Yeah, he got really sick.
Yeah, so it just, but there's been no clear definition of what exactly is. Normally when a celebrity gets sick, like Jeremy Renner got run over by a tractor. Mm-hmm. The amount of news media coverage on the details, the weight of the unit and what bones were broken and his recovery. And then all of a sudden he's doing a news story on 60 Minutes. And where's Jamie Foxx?
Yeah. Yeah. and that's to us like the clear sign, or not a clear sign, but definitely a sign that something's not right. Because I don't know. It's like, it's like an intelligence, right? Like when you talk to someone, or like we were talking about how you both want to have a side. It has to be freedom of speech, yeah, right? Yeah. But there's a mathematics to that. There's a mathematics when you talk to somebody, and there's like a flow that goes back and forth, and that gives it, for me at least, as long as that flow is there, it's much more trustworthy for me. I think I learned that because, like I said, I had a harder life when I was younger and stuff. Yeah. I walked back alleys. I've been in bad places. What always kept me safe was sort of this logistics to talking to people and keeping things sort of real. And now we don't see any of that in discussions.
Well, you can't have a discussion today without being dismissed.
100%.
I don't remember that in my 20s and 30s.
No.
I don't remember that at all.
If you shut someone down without even letting them speak, just maybe after 3 words, then you weren't a good, you weren't holding your position well, right?
No. Like you can't dismiss somebody because they're sharing an opinion that doesn't line up with yours. Speak your opinion, fine, but you can't dismiss the other person. But I remember that. I mean, I'm a creative individual, so it's just like I embrace collective, like communicating with people and discussing things, and I embrace people coming up with ideas that are better than mine or ideas that are contributing to mine, and vice versa, right? That's not going on today. You're almost a little nervous about expressing anything because then they'll just dismiss you, but now they'll take it further. They'll take that out of context and then paint the brush over social media with everybody that's in line with their opinion. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're the evil person. But nobody would do this face to face, and I'm of a generation of face to face. You've got a problem, face to face, but nobody does that. And now you get just rallies and demonstrations, and you get the one group on that side and the other group on this side, and everyone's just yelling at each other. Nobody's interested in communicating and discussing the real issues at hand.
Well, one of the ones that I found, and I'm just sort of speaking what's going on, I'm not taking a side here or anything, but one of the ones I saw yesterday was that in Ottawa, in front of Justin Trudeau's office, there was a massive group of Muslim mothers and fathers.
Okay.
And they were protesting about the schools and about having some choice in what their children say. And I noticed this, like, I don't know, I'm sort of used to looking at this information. So I sort of try to think about what I will see next, because then if that sort of happens, I can sort of gauge how well I am at collecting my information, whether I'm sort of correct, right? And I'm never going to be 100% correct, right? No. But I like to keep on the right line. But like, I already saw this coming before. It's because you had all these liberals that were saying that they want this and then shutting down any type of talk, right? And now all of a sudden you have Muslim people that have a different faith, right? And how are you going to shut them down being a liberal, right? You can't.
You can't.
So this is where I start to see we're going into more of a civil war type thing if our governments and the people don't start to bring it back together, because that won't come, because if the banking collapse happens, so they've been warning us for a while now that the internet's going to have a blackout, right? Have you heard about that?
No.
Oh yeah. So the government keeps warning us that cyber attacks may happen. We have to be ready for 1 week of blackout for internet. Now I'm starting to hear it could be a month, right? But basically,
so what is society going to do if you shut down the internet?
They're going to revolt. I think you're going to see a lot of crime. You're going to see martial law probably enacted in the bigger things.
Everyone is so glued to social media. Everybody.
And the banking won't work, right? So your banking's going to be down for a bit. So with that too, I think it's a way that also they can bring in more control, right?
What was that BS last week with TD and nobody could access their accounts?
I'm not 100% sure. I saw that happen, but I've actually, so in the past, I guess 3 months, maybe a little bit longer. So I would go to my ATM machine on Bloor Street. So, pretty busy street. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, because I get up pretty early, and the branch, the ATMs don't open. And I thought, what do you mean they don't?
You've been noticing that?
They don't open till 9. So I walk up the street to the CIBC.
Yeah.
It doesn't open till 9.
And ATMs sometimes are not working.
And yes, I've had that
so
also.
So you can't even go in to use the ATM because they're closed now.
Yeah.
What I read is they said it because they didn't want the homelessness to be sleeping inside the vestibules, the ATM vestibules, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they were closing them during those hours. But then I found it ironic that the ATM drive-through machines or whatever were not working as well.
See, I didn't know that. Yeah.
I was always frustrated. Then you'd have to go to another branch to try to find it. And I'm like, why am I...
Well, I'm not sure where it is. Is it France or the UK? Like I said, I get a lot of information. So for me, it doesn't really matter if it's France or the UK. When I'm re-speaking it to other people, though, I'd like to be more on point. But to me, it's just the idea that it's happening there and that it's going to come here, right? But it's either France or the UK, where if you try to do a cash transaction to somebody else over $1,000 now, it's illegal.
Well, you can get arrested?
I'm not sure if you can get arrested, but it's against the law.
Just to buy something for $1,000?
Over $1,000 in cash.
So how does Facebook Marketplace work then? How does
And so they also did this in a country in Africa recently. So they basically said, I think it was Nigeria, because they wanted to get them to use their digital dollar. So they had the choice whether to use it or whether not to. They realized that a lot of people were not using it. So they actually put a limit on cash withdrawals. And I think I'm pretty sure it was Nigeria, but it was $20 a day for a person. So, and I'm starting to sort of see like that coming here in a sense. So that's why they do it slowly, right? Now you don't have access to the branches at this time, right? Oh, we've had, a delay where you can't withdraw today, but don't worry, it's back up tomorrow. It's basically for me, priming you to get you for it not to be a shock, and then something else is going to happen, right? If it's martial law or say the the banks start failing or something, then it just, look at that, right? It's
Carbon tax.
carbon tax.
It's going up again July 1st.
Oh my
on
God.
Canada's birthday.
Is all the forest fires probably that's causing the carbon, right?
Well, first of all, people set those fires on.
Yeah, they did.
Okay?
Yeah.
People are responsible for causing those fires.
They showed on a satellite, on one of the satellites in the Northern Ontario, Quebec one, when that was first starting, how they basically all started at once over multiple areas. Now, but yeah, it was pretty off. And then the arson, they started arresting a lot of people, which the media hit again, right? And I think the premier of Alberta actually brought in outside people to do investigations into that. I know in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, I think they arrested some people. So definitely it was started.
So it was a criminal act. It wasn't an act of Mother Nature.
No. And they say now that the ice caps actually are bigger now than they were previously. So that was something like...
Okay, so that brings me to EVs, and I know that this is a joke. I saw that in the news recently. Like I just paid attention to some things that it was because I thought it was funny. Someone was making light of it. California last week, was it last week or the week before, was asking EV owners to reduce charging their vehicles because of the strain on the system, the grid, because of all the AC usage. The same soundbite was coming out of the same news reporting about combustible engines are going to be discontinued as of 2035 or whatever it is.
I don't know the technical aspect, but I've been hearing a lot that actually to get the electrical cars with the battery and everything else, it's actually a higher pollution than
it is. That's a fact. I'll keep on stating that.
Yeah.
Your carbon footprint is greater if you factor in from conception to delivery and age of the vehicle. An EV unit actually emits more carbon than a combustible engine unit.
Wow. So
I'm sorry, but it's true. So look it up. You guys, anyone can look it up.
Yeah.
They only factor it in from the day of owning the vehicle and driving. You can't do that because there's a carbon footprint attached to the manufacturing of that vehicle.
Oh, I actually got a funny thing to tell you about that.
What's that?
So this comes from ADV Podcasts on YouTube. They have been doing China. They both have Chinese wives. They lived in China, and I've been watching them since before COVID. Great information. So they were the first. You might have seen this, but they were the first to release it, and then other people have been sort of copying what they've done and putting the info out. But so in China, they show these massive parking lots filled with brand new
I've seen this.
EVs.
Yep.
And the reason why, and they have all license plates because they've all been registered, is because the way that a lot of things work in China, I'm not going to say that we don't have corruption here, right? But is that you get more investors if you're showing that things are being sold, right? So basically
On paper, they were sold.
Yeah. So
and they're driving around cities.
Yeah, well, because they have the license plate now, but they're sitting there brand new, like 100, and same with bike sharing and stuff like that. So they're just sitting there with no. I just thought that was
It's kind of funny because I always thought it was really interesting that when Jimmy Carter became president, one of the first things he did was put solar panels on the White House.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he was a huge fan of reducing energy consumption, right? And then the day that Reagan became president, he removed all the solar panels. So we're talking 76 to 80 and then 80 to 88, right?
I wasn't even aware of that.
So I remember reading that and I was looking at it. I was going, okay, so the solar panels were a good thing. And even Elon Musk were like his shingles, they never took off anywhere. And I've spoken about it. I'm like, good, it's a great idea. But anything that's human designed and you give it enough effort, you can perfect it. Like, I mean, I'm sure Elon could perfect those shingles that are solar panel shingles and we could have sustainable, like, why are we not using the sun more often?
100%.
Like, I don't understand why are we, like these electric vehicles, why aren't they all solar panel consuming usage? Why do we have to create these batteries to begin with or whatever? It could just be storage unit. I don't know. I just figured like I'm of the age of like when I was in high school, bob it, you chopped off a penis and you can reattach it. So if you can do that, you could figure out other fucking things, man. That's a complicated part of the anatomy. And then all of a sudden you can reattach and make it work again.
Yep.
So why are we not perfecting those? And I go back to Tesla, Nikola Tesla.
Nick,
right?
yes.
So
yes.
all of a sudden, there was a reason why his ideas weren't. He wanted everybody to have power, but capitalistic, you can't do that. We have to put a price tag on it. So that means you have to make a bulb that's going to fail. You can't make a bulb that's going to last forever.
Well, it's just like our manufacturing process compared to the old days. You buy something, it lasts,
Old school green
10
or
times as
yellow
long.
washer dryer will still be working today. It's just done aesthetically. It doesn't please anybody that wants it, right?
And it's not made to fail, like you're saying, right?
So that's why I'll never be an EV person. I know a lot of people are trying to get in. Cybertruck is still not out there. I know that, and I know he's listening, Luso. So he had his world of problems with his Ford. I think it was like 6 months down.
He actually said to say hi to you.
So, yes. All right. So Andrew,
yeah.
but I mean, like, I don't see many contractors jumping on the Ford Lightning train. I know of a lot of contractors when Cybertruck was first announced, and I just simply said, Elon is a great marketing genius. No different than Steve Jobs. He convinced everybody to give him $250 to basically get the pocket to build the infrastructure to build an EV truck. That's what he did by doing what he did. Has he delivered it yet? No, of course not. Is it going to work on I still disagree it's going to work on a Canadian job site in the dead of winter. I do not think it's going to work the way it's supposed to work. It's going to work for a Cafe GC.
And there's other issues too, like, so you have all the subscription things you can do at Tesla where you can have the car come pick you up at the front of the grocery store, right? I think it's called Recall or something.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact of the control over the cars too. I guess with Starlink and stuff, they maybe could have done that, right? But it's also when you have an electric car like that, everything is going to be done. Everything can be stopped by the government. And it's a very common thing that people talk about with this, right? So like one of the recent things I heard was a news report from the States where a gentleman had Amazon Home security. He had a delivery from Amazon coming. The delivery driver thought something said was racist or something, which didn't happen. But what ended up happening was his whole Amazon account got canceled, and so his alarm system went down, his controlling for his lighting, everything. Yeah, and that happened. So and that's actually like something that actually happened, right? It's not us just saying anymore, they can shut something down on you. But I do see these 15-minute cities coming into play.
Everybody's talking about that now.
100%.
How's that going to work for construction?
I'm not sure.
You'll have to get passes, or you'll have to get a sticker on your vehicle, or you'll have to get authorization that you can pass this checkpoint.
Yep. Maybe it'll be like COVID. They'll just let us drive around because we look like construction workers. I remember during COVID, I drove that scooter around. I was like the only one on the road. And no one bothered me. Like no police bothered me. It didn't matter, right? I never got stopped once to ask, are you vaccinated or are you essential or anything like that. I guess I looked the part, right?
If we really wanted to reduce carbon footprint in this country, and I've said this before, why don't we have a train system that goes right across the whole country in every province and territory? And offering that up as a tourist attraction, because lots of people from outside this country would actually hop on that train in the Maritimes and go clear across the whole country and experience Canada like nothing before.
I agree 100%. And the reason why they don't is because they're probably wasted all the money on the Eglinton cross line there. I used to joke around about that because even that is
not wasted because it's in people's pockets.
Well, but it's archaic already by the time it's going to be built. Like if you're going to build, like you're saying, if you're going to build something like transportation or something, do something world leading, something where other countries.
And don't give it to Bombardier. I'm sorry, but you don't. They fucked up on the new streetcars here.
They did, yeah.
Right, trams for everybody who's listening outside of Canada here.
The subways as well.
The subways as well. So it's like you cannot, just because they're on the verge of bankruptcy and then they're in bed with somebody and they know somebody and everybody's in that same family tree or whatever, you cannot still give that contract to that company and then they continuously kept on fucking it up.
Agreed.
You have to, if it's outsourced to another, like how about looking at other companies outside of this country that have a better product that will deliver on time, You know what I mean? But as far as I know, Bombardier was not really fined, or if they paid any of these fines, if they got any fines, right?
Yeah, I don't recall.
They still got the contract, and they were still delayed. It took forever to replace that last streetcar. And it's just sad that that's the exact same thing that's going on right now with the LRT. I remember when they did it to St. Clair, and they fucked up that whole street royally. And then all of a sudden, they put on the new streetcars, and they were too low.
Yep.
And they had to reconstruct now the pedestrian.
Like, how do you make a mistake like that? Like, I understand mistakes are going to be made, but it's a pretty...
The shit's going on right now.
sense.
And my brother was working for the Region Appeal, and he recently retired. So now they're doing an LRT on the connection between Brampton to the very end of Mississauga, at Lakeshore there, right? So it's a 3-lane road for the most part. Highway 10 here, Ontario, it's a 3-lane road. And they're getting rid of 2 lanes. And so now you're down to 2 lanes during rush hour for vehicular, because you're only down to 1 lane, and you're putting in an LRT. Why not put a subway system and keep the 3 lanes?
Like what?
You know that Brampton's growing. You know that Mississauga's growing. You know that you want to connect even further part of Brampton. Why are you looking at this as a civil opportunity and not taking advantage of the way it properly should be built?
100%. 100%.
Why are we keep on tearing down the Gardner and creating more and more congestion, and these stupid people talking about creating what Chicago has, like 7 or 8, 9 lane roads along their North Shore, Lakeshore, right? North Lakeshore Road or whatever it is. That doesn't make any sense. Why are we not tunneling underneath it and creating a bypass where you go from the 427 to the DVP?
Like they said 15 years ago, they said we should put a tunnel partially going under Lake Ontario. But that's the thing. It's just like the Eglinton line is like, if you're going to build something, make it modern, make it one of a kind that's brand new.
And attract the world to this country.
100%. Or attract other people that then want you to build that in their city for them.
Exactly. And then you know that Ontario Place is going to turn into a fucking casino. On the taxpayers' dime.
I've been hearing, yes.
On the taxpayers' dime.
Yeah.
That's just a shit show. Just because Ford wants to line his pocket.
Yep. And that's sort of like when you were talking about the mayors before. Like he's conservative, right? And he hasn't done a very good job. It's the same corruption as everybody else.
Kathleen Wynne didn't do a good job either.
Nope.
But you're right, though. At the beginning, you talked about it. Like, let's just say, for argument's sake, Chris Guy gets in and he becomes the mayor. I guess his first mandate is like, fuck that. You can't touch Ontario Place, right?
Yep.
You're the mayor of Toronto. You're the mayor of the biggest city in this country. You have to go tell the premier now, go fuck yourself. We're not doing this. You think that's going to happen?
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
No.
He's going to get a big wad of cash to shut the fuck up, and it's going to turn into a casino.
Yep. Or something else will happen.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be money made. Yeah. Like the other fiasco is 407. Selling 407 at rock bottom price. And when it was taxpayer.
And it's not even Canadian owned, is it?
No, it's not. French, as far as I know. French. Well,
it was like when we started selling our energy too, like our energy plants and stuff like that. I said, like back in the 90s when I started seeing that, I said, why would you sell something that the government has had for 80 years, could have for 500 more?
The oil sands.
And now you're selling it for just to get rich and then line your pockets. And then the Canadians never have that ownership ever again, right?
Talk about instant gratification. I mean, you got so many people not even interested in speaking to you and having a conversation. They'll dismiss you.
Yep.
Then they go online to get their news. And if it's not a soundbite that's in their interest, they dismiss it and not watch it. And then talk about politicians who are not really interested in building this country into the future. It's about lining their pockets right now. Make as much money as we possibly can right now. And then when I get ousted, I have a bunch.
It seems to be the disease that has become, very prevalent in the country. It's if you have money and you have, a nice car, you have that, it's a sign of success. It's a sign of almost like a good person. Like people trust you more when you have that, in a sense, right?
But they're trying to get rid of all of that. Like what's going to happen to combustible? I mean, just for shits and giggles, sometimes I look at auctions, car auctions, right? One of 2 original Ford Mustang Bullets from the movie Bullet which is one of my favorites.
Okay.
I'll listen to the
I'll remember that.
I'll listen to the soundtrack all the time. I love that soundtrack. Old school filmmaking, the title sequence, and just Steve McQueen. I'm a little nervous about, Andrew will appreciate this because he likes it when I go on a rant on film, right? So Steven Spielberg is doing a new Bullet movie, but not a sequel to that movie, and it's starring Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper is not Steve McQueen, and he can't act to that genre. And Steven Spielberg is not the right director for that. I'm sorry to say that. He's an amazing director, but he's not the right director for that. So I'm curious to see what that Bullet modern day version of it's going to be, because I'm not a fan of the new Ford Mustang Bullet, right? So I saw the auction, and one of the two sold for like $7 million.
Wow.
So is that what's going to happen to combustible engine vehicles, where it's going to be like Cuba kind of thing, where they kept on just fixing them, keeping them because they can't go the EV route? So are you going to be like selling a Toyota Corolla from 2010 or whatever, combustible engine, for $100,000?
Yeah, and it's going to be like the movies, right? The city's going to get knocked out of power, and you're going to see, a couple of guys, go into his garage and lift off the tarp.
Refining gasoline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because the gas doesn't last very long anymore, right? How long does gas last?
I don't know.
A couple months, I think, and it goes bad.
It's like, what's going to happen to all that stuff then? But, I mean, you got to wonder about the big oil companies. Are they getting in bed with, like, their profits, technically speaking, are going to go down?
They will. I do know some of them over the past 20 years have diversified a lot in the solar and other things, right?
They have to. The best thing I ever heard back in film school days was anti-smoking commercials were funded by smoking tobacco companies.
Yes, it's
that's
like,
a fact, by the way.
It reminds me of the movie Thank You for Smoking.
Yes. So tobacco, firearms, and alcohol.
Yeah.
So, and social media is really good at this. If you want to build a social media following, start creating fake accounts that are haters towards you.
Yep. It gets you the clicks.
So I wasn't surprised to hear that Big Tobacco was funding anti-tobacco smoking ads.
Wow. Yeah. I think almost anything's anything almost makes sense. Not makes sense, but nothing shocks me anymore.
No, you can't.
You
can't. The way it's all working out right now.
Like I remember I told you a couple days or last week, I think I said, make sure you have 4 weeks of food.
Yeah, I remember you telling
and
me.
You have some money. Like, I think everybody should have, at least 2 to 3 weeks, if it's just an internet blackout to other things. I think it's...
When are they predicting this blackout?
I think more or less it'll come depending on the Russia-Ukraine war, depending on how serious that gets, and depending on our banking system. I think that's just part of the ways to help them manipulate it and keep it under control if things do go bad. Like, maybe that's what I was worried about today, was saying too much, because you have evil people that have evil plans, but they're not always going to be right. But I also have to think maybe they're like 4 steps ahead. So I'm still thinking way back. So if I say something, am I giving away? Like, it sounds crazy, right? To think that, I'm not trying to be like cocky about myself. It's just, I want to be careful on how I think. I don't want to help progress, or put out anything. But I think that the banking, I think there's going to be an internet blackout soon. Like, I did see reports that there was quite a few U.S. states that were hit with cyber attacks that were not being reported, and they were federal. I don't have any sources to give at the moment. So, but everybody
could just do their own homework, and you can just go online and surf whatever. And
but that's not really being talked about. So I think internet blackouts are going to happen pretty soon. I think
I definitely agree with you that the banking is going to collapse in Canada.
And they say once the first bank goes, it's going to be
it's
domino
dominoes.
effect.
It's 100%, because they've all been in the black ever since they started.
Yeah,
they've never had a failure ever, but right now it's primed to fail.
Yeah.
They've actually designed it to fail.
Yeah. And then that's when the forced digital banking comes in, right? So, and with the digital banking, see, it's easy to force it at that point because your money's worth nothing. Everyone's just going to jump on it, and then they have control over everything you do, just like they do in China.
But
right?
wasn't that what was going on at the beginning of COVID? Everybody was just trying to withdraw their funds. They were just like worried about not having access to their funds.
I remember it happened more with I saw it more myself with the Freedom Convoy. When they started to freeze accounts and then people started to quickly go and try to withdraw, and also as a boycott start to try to withdraw cash, and then they weren't being allowed to do that at that point. Some of them were having trouble.
Talking about dismissed there, huh?
Yeah.
Not even have the balls to go and actually have a conversation with why are all these people here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nope, I'm just going to dismiss you.
Yep.
I'm going to call you names and I'm going to dismiss you. I really think he believes that everyone's going to forget this. And I have hope in the Canadians that they won't forget it when it comes to the election. But you're right, though. Would it be any different if Pierre was in power right now? That's the scary part. And I don't think anybody that's a politician is going to change anything. You can't change the system.
No.
The system is so good at making its users, not us, not the citizens, making its users a lot of money and freedom of getting away with a lot of crap that you and I and everyday Canadians will never be allowed to get away with.
100%.
We got to wrap it up, Chris. This has been a little venture, but I'm sure that
went by so fast. I think we only touched on like 2%. I didn't even get into much construction.
I know there's a few people. No, we weren't going to talk on this show. We didn't want to talk about construction, okay. But I know there's a few people listening to the show that are going to appreciate this and they're going to be like, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to reach out to Chris, and you're probably talking to them already and stuff like that. But I wanted people to, and I appreciate you skirting. And I mean, if anybody's listening and they got offended, I'm sorry to say, don't listen to the show. It's as simple as that, man. We're just talking about stuff that's going on in our lives and what's going on that we're seeing in our construction life. And there is shit going on. I don't care. If you think that there's nothing going on, you need to go to the optometrist. You need to go to the hearing doctor. You need to go to every single doctor. Well, I wouldn't even go to them because they'll probably give you a boot or something like that, right?
It's about being human again. We gotta
and that's what I like that you started. It was like enough with the division shit and start saying hi and smile and just fucking be nice. That's all as simple as that, man. Like,
and I know sometimes now I won't get that smile back, and that's fine. That's fine. You know, that's fine
but you know you smiled.
Yeah, and I know it came from my heart. So
yeah, I want to do the 12 questions with you, man.
Oh,
these are simple. You know this, man. You've heard this show before.
As long as I don't have to sing again.
No, but you did a great version of it, man. It was wonderful. Chris, what's your favorite construction word?
Construction word.
I put on you a spot. Phrase. It could be a phrase.
Jeez, there's 12 of these, and I can't even answer the first one. My favorite construction. Good morning.
There you go. What's your least favorite construction word?
It is what it is.
I hate that fucking saying, man. I hate it, and I do notice younger people say it a lot.
They caught on from some of the like a bad influence from one of the older guys. Because for me, that's always like an older person saying. But
my saying when we were younger in our 20s, I would say, or even late teens, 20 was, "Oh, what up, guy? What up, guy?"
Yeah,
but you can't even say that now.
I remember the guy.
Guy.
Yo, guy.
Yeah, yo, guy. Hey, what's going on, guy? What turns you on in construction?
Dealing with good clients, engineers, and property managers.
The reason why you're in the industry. Yeah. What turns you off in construction?
Not being able to find that leak.
Frustrating.
Sometimes on buildings, right, you get airflow that goes up, so you can have a leak in a window, and it actually, without the wind, it actually is pushing up above it. That's one of the weirder ones that I've seen.
So science comes into play here.
Yeah, and narrowing stuff down. So doing the water test properly, reverse pressure, but then also just figuring it out, right?
What's your favorite curse word? Or phrase?
Curse word.
Curse phrase.
F off, but I don't usually say that, but when I get to that point, sometimes I have a little bit of a potty mouth. But most people that I do that to, they know my character, so they're just a little shocked at first, and they're just like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that again, or push Chris there, right?
What's your favorite vehicle? Anything in the world?
Favorite vehicle? My feet.
Hey. What's your least favorite vehicle?
Missiles.
What construction sound or noise do you love?
Construction. When there is when I'm caulking and it's just the birds chirping.
It's nice. What construction sound or noise do you hate?
Metal scratching on metal. That's one of the ones that just makes me cringe.
Harsh. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt one day?
Well, when I was younger, I would have said police officer. We'll just leave it there. I'm too old for that now. So,
but there's nothing right now that you're thinking.
Anything's open to me. Like just to be my own business owner. Doesn't matter. I think it can change year to year.
Yep.
I could be 70 and want to open up a hemp cafe or something, or
True.
Who knows?
What profession would you not like to do?
At the current time, I would not want to be a journalist in mainstream media.
Talk about a conflict, eh? I did think about the teleprompter for the anchor people.
Oh, yes.
And I thought about, in the back of their head, they must be thinking, did I just say what that was written? Because that's not true.
It's like, not to interrupt, but I think we've all seen this, but where they show, they show a collage of like 50 different screens, all different news broadcasts.
Such a wake up.
And they're all speaking the exact same
Word
words.
for word.
Yeah, but they make it sound organic by what they're saying. But word for word.
Small town newscasters.
And not once. Like I've seen this now for multiple things. So it just shows the BlackRock. I'm not going to say BlackRock too much because I'd like to make it home in one piece. So.
I'm laughing. No, because it's true, man. Fucking scary individuals. Last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
You tried to treat others well and treat them the way that you would like to be treated. Something along those lines. But that I can always learn. I'm sure once I got there'd be a whole new thing I'd have to learn. And no one's perfect, right? But at least that I tried, right?
Yeah, exactly. Chris, man, it's always great to see you, bro.
My pleasure, Manny.
Yeah, everything, you're doing well?
Yeah, doing well. A little bit rough after winter, and then right when I started to get ready to work, I had some wrist issue, but otherwise I feel top shape, very healthy right now.
We're getting older.
Getting old isn't. It's good. I shouldn't say it isn't the best. Getting old is good, but yeah, you feel it in the body sometimes.
You feel it. You totally feel it. You wake up and you realize, I get it.
Yeah, my knee's creaking again. Yeah.
Thanks so much, man. We'll get you back on. We'll talk more construction, but we talked quite a bit of construction on the first show that you were on, man.
Yeah, and I'll actually maybe try to come up with something like more not pre-planned, but actually maybe some info or something, so I'm not losing some of my trains of thought.
No, man. We wanted to just go on a rant here and just let everybody go.
Yeah,
and I think that the listeners are going to appreciate that. And you and I and a few others that we know, we're not the only ones that are thinking this stuff, man.
And I appreciate you and the listeners listening today.
Yeah. All right, Chris, man. Thanks so much, man.
Okay. Thank you.
Angelina, we're out of here.